It is 10:01. Good morning. I'm Lucas Panzica from the 104.5 The Zone Studios. Today marks the start of the NFL new league year at 3 p.m. Central Time. It also means the start of free agency. Deals that have been agreed to in the legal tampering period can become official. The Titans made another move on Tuesday per Diana Rossini, agreeing to terms with Washington guard Sadiq Charles on a one-year deal with max value of $2.5 million. Rossini also reports the Titans are expected to have interest in San Francisco defensive tackle Eric Armstead, and Adam Schefter reports that former Dolphins linebacker Jerome Baker will visit the Titans on Thursday. The Texans continue to make big moves, bringing in former Vikings edge rusher Danielle Hunter, who had 16.5 sacks last year. He signs a 2-year deal worth $49 million. Elsewhere, the Pittsburgh Steelers are reportedly trading wide receiver Deontay Johnson to Carolina. In return, they'll get corner Dante Jackson and a pick swap. For all your foundation repair and waterproofing needs, shut up. Visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once and your home for the Titans and Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
So here I am at the start of the radio show, dying to learn what a PIF swap is. Lucas, you want to enlighten? You can't turn my microphone off to start the radio show.
Finger slipped.
Slipping all over the place. What's a PIF swap, bud? Fill us in.
That's not what I said.
That's what the chat is alleging that you said. Professional broadcaster Lucas Panzica got us off to a hot start this morning. We're happy to have you.
Pit swap, which sounds gross.
A pit swap. Yes, that sounds even more unappealing. That sounds like something Robert would do. A pit swap. We can leave the definition nebulous. Perhaps we can look it up on Urban Dictionary to see what we can find. We've got a lot of time today. We can do it. 615-737-1045 is the number. You can join the discussion if you want. You got the phone lines. You've got the F&M Bank chat. You can live stream the show, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch. How's morale? How's everybody feeling? Not a ton of movement yesterday for your local professional football team. A one-year deal with a journeyman guard who also is a former teammate of Lloyd Cushenberry's at LSU. It seems that they're using the opportunity that Brian Callahan had as a part of the Bengals coaching staff to scout Joe Burrow and that LSU championship team and just casting a wide net. I remember that guy from the process. We can pull him out here. We can add a piece or part there, but pretty low-level transactions yesterday. Now, that doesn't mean that they're done. Free agency doesn't technically begin until 3 p.m. today. For those of you who have been thirsting for more transactions, teams can officially agree and players can officially agree to these deals. Put pen to paper at 3 p.m. Central Time, so we got that. We'll keep you updated with the latest throughout the course of the show. How are you this morning, bud?
Fantastic.
Fantastic as opposed to good. What's the change?
Another day in Nashville. It's a beautiful day. The weather's getting better. What do I have to complain about apart from the Houston Texans apparently building a juggernaut down south?
I feel like that's a pretty decent complaint. Now, I stepped away from my phone for maybe 20 minutes yesterday, and in that 20 minutes, Danielle Hunter signed a 2-year deal with the Houston Texans. He joins Will Anderson Jr., Danico Autry, Azeez Al-Shaair, among several other players. The Texans have signed 15 players to free agent contracts throughout the course of the legal tampering period, or have agreed to terms. Again, they can't officially sign until today, but have agreed to terms with 15 players since legal tampering began. Listen, winning free agency is not the end-all be-all. There will be grades after the fact. They won't mean anything. There will be people pearl clutching. We're doing a little bit of pearl clutching, but not too dramatic just yet. But I do think that this is the start of a potential worst-case scenario if you're the Titans, because the team that's already leading the way in your division has all the resources in the world, just as much, not quite as much as you do, to be able to spend. but their team is already in place, as we talked about.
This is what happens when you hit on draft picks.
Yes.
When you actually get those right, then you get to actually turn yourself into a contender
in multiple
agency.
years, no less.
Yes.
Year over year. So, yeah, they've got a good football team in Houston, and they've got all the money in the world to spend, and you're seeing the dividends of that play themselves out in free agency. Now, that does not guarantee that the Houston Texans are going to be a lock for the AFC South title or that they'll go on to win multiple playoff games or potentially compete for a Super Bowl. Nobody's going to get too far ahead of themselves just yet today. But I'm a little concerned if I'm a Titans fan, if I'm an AFC South fan. What the hell are the Colts doing? They're just sitting on their money extending their own players? Ballard does this all the time, and it has to drive Indianapolis fans insane.
Yeah, what's the most significant thing they've done apart from the Pittman extension?
I need to look through their transactions specifically because mostly it's been just extensions for their own guys. Tyquan Lewis re-signed, Zaire Franklin re-signed, and they kept the punter, Rigoberto Sanchez. But beyond that, they haven't added a player that wasn't theirs to keep.
The Colts A to Z reporter is saying that the Colts have spoken with free agent safety Justin Simmons,
who the Titans are also interested in, according to multiple reports. They swung and missed, apparently, on C.J. Gardner-Johnson.
Also, a potential landing spot, Indianapolis is, for running back A.J. Dillon, according to Ian Rappaport.
Because they lost Zach Moss to Chicago? No, that's not right.
No, Swift ended up in Chicago.
And Moss is in Cincinnati.
Sure.
And Mixon is out. Okay. We'll put the pieces back together later.
Yes. 2 years, $8 million for Moss in Cincinnati.
Just wanted to make sure that I've got all my ducks in a row today.
We should play a game when the dust settles on this, a free agency trivia game where we just name players and it can be you versus someone else. I don't know, like Jeopardy style, hit a buzzer. You have to say what their new landing spot is.
And it sounds like a terrible radio segment.
I don't know.
Would people enjoy that? No, that's it. It's not like the Tennessee geography bee where like...
I mean, think about it. We go, Zach Moss, Bengals.
But wait, who am I competing against? It's not like anybody has like a buzzer. What are you going to do it with the callers?
We'll get Burton here.
Actually,
I think
Burt would crush.
I was going to say, I think he could roast you in that game. Yeah.
I think
he could beat all of us.
Well, it's crazy. Like, Burt knows ball, and I hate to admit that in front of a live microphone, and I wouldn't if he was here to hear me say that. I know he's in another room. Perhaps he'll get word of this after the fact. But Burt actually does know ball. He's not just a big dumb idiot that you like to laugh at.
Wallace on the F&M Bank chat says, just because you signed players who you may think are decent or look good on paper means they have a juggernaut, as you quoted. Can we at least let the season start? Give it 5 games.
No.
I'll say this. For Titans fans waving away the idea of the Texans turning into a contender right before our eyes, if the roles were reversed, and if this was the Titans making these moves.
Oh, you would stick it to them so hard publicly.
Titans fans would be screaming about Super Bowl coming to Nashville. So let's not do the, come on, let's play the game. Yeah, we obviously got to play the games first. But if this was you in their shoes, you would absolutely be yelling about, we are now Super Bowl contenders.
So, yeah, if I'm a Titans fan, I'm not scared of the Texans yet, but I'm a little nervous because your offensive line situation is far from settled. And even if it's just the defensive front guys that you're looking at, because it's not just that they're good on paper. No, those are good football players. You've had 2 of them in your building. Azeez was only here for a year, and what did he do in a year? He broke your single-season record for tackles by an inside linebacker. Danico Autry has far outperformed a contract over the course of 3 years here in Nashville and now goes to the Houston Texans. And I understand he's getting up there in age, but don't you sit there and give me Danico Autry at 34 and turn your nose up and be like, oh, he's too old. He can't play anymore. All right, well, wait till he's chewing on your quarterback's spine, okay? I am with the idea of letting the games play out because, of course, there's no way to predict health. There's no way to predict all manner of different things. But just in terms of the metrics that we have to gauge these 4 teams on as they try and compete in an arms race with one another, who is arming themselves in the AFC South better than the Houston Texans right now?
It's not close.
I'm saying. So I just want that. I just want Titans fans to be cognizant of that. We're not here to rub your noses in it, certainly, because your team is not done making acquisitions. But as we get ready to set the table for a new season, the person or the people who are putting themselves in best position to succeed in 2024, I would argue league-wide, is the Houston Texans. Because, Lucas, you said watching them become a contender before our very eyes, and I know you pushed back on the idea of my premise that if you make the playoffs, you are immediately a contender. But this team won a playoff game last year, okay? They're already there. C.J. Stroud in his rookie season doing things that no rookie quarterback has done before him. They are in a position to add luxury pieces to a roster that is already very well equipped. Franchise left tackle already in place. Stud quarterback already in place. They've seemed to figure out their running game. They've got pieces on the offensive line. And that offensive line group wasn't healthy last year, save Tunsil. I'm looking at, and like, you can make moves to combat this. And these games, I'm just hoping for good football between the Texans and the Titans and the Colts and the Jags. I want to watch fun AFC South games. And I think that this has the potential to be one of the most fun divisions in football. I'm hoping. My Sunday viewing experience begs for it, okay? As does yours. You want to be able to compete in this division, and this division is going to be hotly contested. I don't think it's the Texans to win going away, because it was the Jags to win going away last year, and how'd that work out? But based on what we have to judge them on right now, nobody's doing a better job this offseason than the Houston Texans. And I would say that of any division, of any team in any division right now across the NFL. They are in a really good spot. They've set themselves up for success. David Culley and Lovie Smith died for this, basically. Career died for this. And it's put them in a position, because they've been terrible for a long, long time. Think about the way that we talked about the Houston Texans as an organization, Lucas, when we first got this radio show 3 years ago.
Directionless. Just wandering in the wilderness. One
of the most inept franchises that you could find.
Had a mad preacher running things.
Old Jack Easterby. Where's he at? Whose front office is he working in now? Anybody's?
That's a great question.
Or has he gone back to the where to he's not actually a priest. What is he?
He was always a chaplain.
It's like a team chaplain?
Yeah, he was a chaplain for the Patriots for a while, a character coach, whatever that means. For the Chiefs, I think he worked in Kansas City, but yeah, I don't know. I don't think he's definitely not in the NFL.
Well, see, I'm not trying to go to either extreme, because Agent S. in the FNM Bank chat, you can interact on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch, says, y'all said let Rand cook and then this MFer burn the house down. No, we're not there yet. Whereas somebody goes to the opposite, also on YouTube, King Titan Gaming says, get off there, THERE, the incorrect there, get off their nuts, talking about the Houston Texans. So you don't have to go to extremes, but the least that you could do for me is use proper grammar. 615-737-1045 is how you can react. Mike Herndon of PK.com and the Football and Other F Words podcast is going to join us coming up next. We'll discuss what the Titans have done this offseason. We'll discuss what they have yet to do and need to do as we continue this process. I'm Buck Rising. It's 104.5 The Zone. Mike Herndon is going to join us here in just a little bit. We'll go through the Titans' offseason so far. We'll discuss how they should approach the process moving forward. Free agency officially begins at 3 p.m. Central Time today. Get some phone calls in the meantime, 615-737-1045. You can jump in. By the way, don't forget, get your tickets. We sold more tickets yesterday to the Install Live show. Greg and I are going to tape a podcast today, but we're waiting until the live show to do a deep dive on free agency and your draft class. It's Friday, May the 3rd, so it's 6 days after the NFL draft goes down. It's at the Analog Hotel in Midtown. Friday, May the 3rd, like I said, VIP tickets are $75. They include drink tickets, dinner during the happy hour portion, because we'll open the doors at 6. The show will start at 7, and priority seating. And if you just want to show up, $25 gets you in the door. It's a real great cause that we're supporting, Leukemia and Lymphoma Society. So we're going to raise money that night as Greg flies in from NFL Films and breaks down everything that you need to know about your football team and the way that they're putting it together. 1045thezone.com to get your tickets. Kevin in Nashville is first. Hey, Kevin.
Hey, guys. How y'all doing?
We're good.
Hey, as a Titan fan, I'm going to let my fellow Titans know you have nothing to worry about with this year's team, because if you think that Amy Adams-Trunk is going to let the Houston Texans outdo her and embarrass her family, I mean, can you imagine how she would feel if Houston won a Super Bowl before the Titans? It would embarrass her daddy's legacy. So I can promise you that every move that the Texans make, the Titans are going to counter it this offseason, and it's going to be a hell of a season. You guys have a good day.
Thank you for the call. They're not keeping pace just yet. And the last time that Houston embarrassed her by beating the Titans at home in the Houston Oilers throwbacks, she decided she was going to fire a coach. So I would say that she doesn't like suffering embarrassments to Houston. But, I mean, just timeline-wise, Houston is ahead of the Titans. There's no shame in that. You don't have to feel bad about that. It's been well documented how your team got to the place that it's in and how Houston built themselves back up in the absence of the Deshaun Watson trade. So I don't think there's any shame in looking at Houston and being like, yeah, that team's ahead of schedule or ahead of the Titans' schedule. You just have to figure out a way to beat them. Mike Herndon is here with us now. Football and Other F Words, the podcast. They're going live. What time are you going live today, Mike?
I believe 3:30 is the plan.
Okay.
That's the plan, unless free agency moves us.
So you can follow along at Mike Herndon NFL, where he and our buddy Zach Lyons will be live streaming their reaction to the start officially of free agency at 3 p.m. Central Time today. How would you describe your Titans offseason so far?
Kind of incomplete. Obviously, there's some things that you like that they came out pretty aggressive and targeted on day one and everything with Lloyd Cushenberry and Chidobe Awuzie. And I even like the Tony Pollard signing, even though I know there's complicated feelings with the fan base surrounding that, which are completely unfair to Tony Pollard. But it's just the reality of the situation. Less enthused about the Kenneth Murray and Sadiq Charles additions, but hey, I think they've been connected to some other names that are exciting. I think they're certainly not anywhere close to done. They've got a long way to go. They've got a ton of holes to fill still, but I'm still intrigued to see what else they can do here.
That they swung and missed on C.J. Gardner-Johnson and are now interested in Justin Simmons, who, by the way, is also making a visit to the Colts, according to reports today. What does that signal to you about how they're trying to address the secondary? Because I'm not going to pretend like I'm super educated in safety play, Mike, but those are not similar players.
Yeah, it's interesting. I kind of think Amani Hooker's flexibility as a player gives them some flexibility as far as like which kind of safeties they can target, because
Sure.
we've seen Amani Hooker play in the post. He can do that. He can play down low in the box close to the line of scrimmage as more of a strong safety. We've seen him do that. He can cover tight ends man to man. He can kind of do a little bit of everything. Now he's not elite at any one thing, but he's definitely a flexible kind of fungible safety in my opinion. which gives them some ability to go after different guys. In the C.J. Gardner-Johnson, I liked that they were targeting him, the familiarity with Denard Wilson, him having a massive season under Denard Wilson. And he's still young, 26 years old, obviously very talented, and brings a little bit of an edge, which, if he's not on your team, you hate him. If he's on your team, those are the guys you often, fall in love with as a fan. So I don't mind a guy with a little bit of edge, a little bit of dog in him, and CJ definitely has that. His price tag got kind of crazy. I think somebody's going to need to do like a 30 for 30 on how he went from leading the NFL in interceptions and getting a one-year prove-it deal to having an injury-plagued season that led to a 3-year, $33 million deal. I have no clue how that works, but his market got way higher than what I was expecting it to, and I don't totally mind the Titans bailing out of it at that price point that the Eagles went to.
Mike Herndon is here with us on 104.5 The Zone. You can check out what he's writing at paulkaharski.com. You can listen and watch him on the Football and Other F Words podcast. It'll be live streamed at 3:30 today.
Mike, you said you're not necessarily inspired by the Kenneth Murray move. Obviously, former first-round pick, has all of the athletic traits and the tools. What is the biggest question or concern around Kenneth Murray?
I think to sum it up in a word, it would be instincts. He's just a guy that does not have a great feel for the position, despite being wildly talented. I mean, 6'3", 241, and runs like the wind. I mean, the guy stands out when you watch him play just because he's moving at a different speed than everyone else around him. But he's not always moving in the right direction. He's not exactly disciplined from a standpoint of reading out a play, being in the right spot at the right time, that kind of thing. And then in coverage, he's just a total mess. So, to me, he's very much a two-down, see-ball, hit-ball kind of linebacker, which is fine, but, the Titans don't have anybody else who really, fits that kind of green dot, can be on the field all three downs role. Now, they've been connected to Jerome Baker, who I'm a huge fan of, that could fill that role for them and is reportedly, I guess, coming in for a visit tomorrow, I believe. And if they land him, it actually does kind of change my feelings a little bit about the Kenneth Murray signing, because that slots him into a role that I'm much more comfortable with him playing. But the amount of money they gave him, which, I mean, it's not a ton of money, but it's more money than I thought Kenneth Murray was going to get. I just don't think it's their best deal. We'll see. I mean, he's a super talented guy for sure, and he will make some, stand up, and get out of your seat kind of plays for you. But he's also going to make some where he's the guy chasing after the ball, 5 yards behind the guy that's running in the end zone. So he's going to be a little bit of a roller coaster, I think, for the Titans.
Buck, does that remind you of anyone? Former first-round pick, all the traits, see-ball, hit ball.
Mike, did they just sign bleeping Rashaan Evans 2.0?
That's actually exactly what they did. But he's faster.
No.
Mike,
no.
Checking the 40 time.
No.
He's further in the wrong direction by the time he realizes what's going on sometimes.
What? Lucas said in my ear as you were describing him, does that remind you of anybody? And I sat there and listened to you for a minute. And the realization, I don't think you're watching the YouTube as you're on the phone with us, but the realization coming across my face that they just signed another Rashaan Evans for more money makes me want to throw my laptop through the glass that's protecting Lucas right now. Stop.
He's very much the same guy. I mean, the same weaknesses, the same strengths, all that stuff. I think you're getting a very similar player there.
Oh, my God. Mike Herndon is here with us on 104.5 The Zone. What's the biggest thing that they need to address on the board?
Tackle, still to me. They've got other holes, certainly, but there's just none that, still are as glaring as tackle, which was the need that they ended the season with. It's the need that they're opening the season with, and they still haven't done anything to address it yet. Now, the tackle market's terrible. You're either selecting between old guys who get injured all the time, but are good when they're on the field, or guys that are just not very good. Those are the only options available in free agency. Now, I don't know. There had been some rumblings about Garrett Bowles potentially being a cap casualty in Denver. It does not seem like that's happening at this point, but if it did, I would be all over that. But it's kind of going to be a hold your nose and hope that you can do something as a Band-Aid, and obviously make an attempt to address it in the draft in a meaningful way for a long period of time. But, there's some guys I wouldn't mind there, like a swing at Mekhi Becton. I know, the play has not been great during his NFL career so far, but some of that's been injury. Some of that's been, our buddy Keith Carter up there being his mentor, not Bill Callahan. I could see the argument for bringing in Mekhi Becton. I could see an argument for bringing in a guy like Josh Jones, who's been with the Texans, has played a little bit and has flashed a little bit, but hasn't had a ton of opportunity because he's behind Laremy Tunsil and Titus Howard in Houston. So I could see that guy being someone that'd be worthwhile, but you're just not going to get a proven guy that you feel like you can write down his name at left tackle and feel really good about it going into a game against Danielle Hunter, Nico Autry, and Will Anderson.
Well, that's the thing. So, that's the other thing, Mike, because I feel like Titans fans are already pissed at me 30 minutes into the show because I opened the show being like, oh, my God, I'm scared of the Texans if I'm a Titans fan. Look at what they're doing. Look at what they're going to do to your quarterback twice a year with this kind of front seven. This strategy, it's just they're two teams in two different places in their cycle, I guess, for lack of a better term, because turns out when you hit on draft picks, it allows you to luxury spend on $10 million a year for Danico Autry and a 3-year, $32 million a year on Azeez Al-Shaair. He's a fine linebacker, definitely a good to above average linebacker at times, but still, they're not playing the same game right now, and I don't know how to cleanly reiterate that to Titans fans.
Yeah, they absolutely are not playing the same game right now. And look, they not only, hit on draft picks, but they also had a ton of draft picks because of a certain, handsy quarterback.
The pervert.
that got moved to Cleveland, and they absolutely fleeced Cleveland on that deal, by the way. So that set them up for success, too. It helps when you have a couple extra first-round picks in a short period of time. And look, they bottomed out and were terrible for a few years, and I'm sure that was painful for the folks down in Houston. But sometimes, you crawl through the muck and you come out the other side like Andy Dufresne, and here they are, they're free on the other side, and now they've got young guys everywhere on that roster that are, on their rookie contract or in their prime. You think about like Nico Collins, Tank Dell. I mean, Laremy Tunsil's still in his prime. Titus Howard still in his prime. Shaq Mason. Even a guy like Juice Scruggs who's flashed a little bit for them last year. And then you go to the defensive side of the ball. Jalen Petrie, Derek Stingley, Malik Collins is a pretty good player. And you got Will Anderson, who was up there in the defensive rookie of the year deal last year. It is a roster loaded with young talent, which is something the Titans have zero of. And they have, the Titans do have some young guys that I think are worth, continuing to see on. I think Roger McCreary is an okay player for them already and could be more as he continues to get more comfortable with the nickel spot and develops under an excellent defensive backs coach in Bernard Wilson as his defensive coordinator now. But you look at, there's just not anybody on a rookie contract that you can point to and say, that's a star. Like, that is a guy. I like Tajay Spears. I like Peter Skoronski. I even, am cautiously semi-optimistic about Will Levis.
Cautiously semi-optimistic? What the hell?
Yeah. How do you feel about that?
In a way, it's weirdly like a great way to put it.
I'm cautiously semi-optimistic about the quarterback. I love that for you.
Well, if it was C.J. Stroud, I'm standing on the table,
sure,
jumping up and down, going, "He's the man." I the quarterback for the next 15 years. And there's other guys I'd be even more, on the cautiously not optimistic side about. But Levis flashed, and obviously had a disadvantageous situation that he was working from.
Sure.
But I think a lot of the stuff that I worried about with him as a prospect that had me, cautious on him coming out of Kentucky also showed up. So, I don't know. We'll see on that. But, yeah, to me, the Titans and Texans, and that's part of the equation too, right? Because, the Texans know they have an answer on Stroud. They got their answer immediately, and that means, okay, now it is time. We have this guy on a rookie contract. We have some other cornerstone pieces at, premier positions on rookie contracts that we can, build around. Let's throw gasoline on this fire and get a Danielle Hunter and get, these other big pieces that they can chase to really go for it. And the Titans just don't have that luxury because they aren't certain they have their guy. They might think they have their guy, but they can't be certain right now. And they don't have all those other pieces like the Stingleys and the Petries and the, Tank Dells and all these other guys that are on rookie cheap contracts that they can fill in around. They're having to build a team out of free agents right now is kind of what they're having to do. So
it just sounds like you've kind of put yourself in a mindset, Mike, where you're willing to let the Texans take a run at the Chiefs dynasty, sit this Mahomes years out, and let C.J. Stroud toil in futility trying to get past them. That sounds like it's your strategy for your football team right now.
Yeah, I mean, I think it can turn around quicker than what it may look like right now. All it takes is, I say all it takes. That 2019 draft that John Robinson put together was a franchise-changing moment for this team, and it happened immediately too, right? Jeffrey Simmons was a star, right out of the gate. A.J. Brown was a star right out of the gate. Nate Davis was a starter. Amani Hooker was a starter, right out of the gate. It doesn't take but one or two of those classes to all of a sudden look around and say, oh, wow, this team is now loaded up with young stars. But the Titans haven't had anything remotely close to one of those classes in 5 years now. So it's time for them to have one of those draft classes. And who knows, maybe we'll look back in a year or two and say, well, the 23 class is one of those classes and the 2024 class is on its way. And, hey, 2025 is looking pretty good. I just don't think it's going to be a this year kind of thing to get this ship turned around and into a spot where they're a legitimate AFC contender again. I think this is a team that if you can go 9-8 and you see that Levis is the guy and you find out that you have a few more pieces, that's a great result of the 2024 season for the Titans, in my opinion.
At Mike Herndon NFL is where you can follow him. You can catch the Football and Other F Words podcast later this afternoon at 3:30. Thank you, Mike.
Absolutely. Thanks, guys.
That's Mike Herndon. You didn't have me as the bigger optimist in that conversation, did you? Cautiously semi-optimistic about the quarterback. Love that for him. 615-737-1045 is the number. Bobby in Smyrna's up next. Hey, Bobby.
How you doing?
I'm good.
I got a question about the salary cap, and I'm just going to use some even numbers. Let's say a quarterback got a $100 million contract with $50 million guaranteed and hits $10 million in incentives. How does that work against the salary cap?
It's a good question. It depends on the specific structure of the contract, Bobby. So it's not exactly some kind of blanket formula that you can apply to every quarterback situation. There are going to be a number of different categories that they will have. Now, as far as his base salary and his signing bonus, that is typically how the cap hit is determined. And, of course, restructures factor in there. So looking at guaranteed money is a part of it, but it's base salary and signing bonus, typically the two things that you can correlate cap hit to the most without adding all kinds of other financial, I don't want to call them financial complications, but other financial variables in there. Hopefully that's a clean enough answer for you. Okay. How you feeling back there? Mike with a little doom and gloom, more doom and gloom than I was expecting this morning.
What did you want from Mike to come in here and tell you the Titans are AFC contenders in 2024?
That's not the way that I didn't have any expectation. It was a different for him to come on here and tell me that they signed Rashaan Evans again is not something that I was expecting this morning. Okay, I haven't watched Kenneth Murray enough yet. Clearly, woof. Lucas's SEC observations are next.
Below MSRP? Below MSRP. Below MSRP. It's pretty simple. Two Rivers Ford sells all new non-specialty Fords below MSRP.
All right, we'll get back to your free agency questions and phone calls here in just a minute. We do have SEC observations, though, Lucas, because basketball, it starts tonight. Oops. Did you hear that?
Just can't get enough of yourself, can you?
Let's talk about SEC, baby. Let's talk about the SEC. Let's talk about Nick Saban and Josh Heupel in the SEC. Let's talk about SEC, baby. Let's talk about the SEC. Let's talk about Brian Kelly and Greg Sankey in the SEC. Let's talk about SEC.
Let's talk about the SEC tournament, baby. It's March, and it starts tonight at Bridgestone Arena. 3HL will be out there this afternoon. We will be there Thursday and Friday.
Yeah, we screwed that up.
And, we lied to you about that. Apologies. And we will be, this is not a lie, effectively your pregame show for Vol Network coverage of Tennessee basketball on Friday. So the bottom four plays tonight. Buck, who you got? Who you got tonight as Vanderbilt takes on Arkansas?
Arkansas.
Vandy finished the season strong. Big win at home, senior night over Florida over the weekend. Not enough for you to launch the Commodores into the second round.
Arkansas, what's the line? Arkansas.
That's a good question. I'm not sure who is favored because both Arkansas and Vandy actually had some decent late season moments. Arkansas both kind of pushed Kentucky at Rupp Arena in the second half. Kentucky pulled away in both of those games. But Tennessee, I'm trying to pull up the winner or the bracket, and it's escaping me.
Do you want me to wait?
So this is very poor by us.
I can wait.
But the point is,
I'll take Arkansas.
And then you got Missouri and Georgia as the other bottom four matchup. So Tennessee plays the winner between Mississippi State and LSU. If the Vols win that game, they will move on to the semifinals. Remember, they lost to Mississippi State on the road earlier this year. They crushed LSU at home. If they handle their business against 8-seed LSU or 9-seed Mississippi State, they go to the semifinals where they will await the winner out of Auburn's cluster in the bracket. So winner of Vandy, Arkansas plays South Carolina. Winner of that game plays Auburn. Winner of that game plays Tennessee in the semifinal if Tennessee handles their business. My question is, how many teams can we sit here and say feasibly could win the SEC tournament this year? Six. Name them.
Tennessee, Kentucky, Alabama, Auburn, South Carolina, A&M.
Oh, A&M. I like that. I think I agree with you. Florida, the 6th seed. That's an odd enough
thing. Bookmark it, somebody.
Florida, the 6th seed, but they got to run into an Alabama team. You know what? I don't know, because Florida pushed Alabama to an overtime loss, or Florida lost in OT in Tuscaloosa. They dominated Alabama at home in the second meeting, which was about a week ago. So if Florida beats Mizzou and Georgia, which they absolutely should, Mizzou or Georgia, they got to play Alabama again in the quarterfinals. I could see Florida making a run at this thing, but I'm with you. They don't feel like true contenders where Texas A&M has a Wade Taylor that can take over a game. They've got elite rebounding.
Florida playing some good basketball down the stretch, for sure. Let me not discount it, and I'm not going to expand it to 7. 6 feels like a lot anyway.
But lost to Vanderbilt to end the season, bad loss.
Bad loss.
Bad loss.
Arkansas minus 5.5.
You may be thinking, what does Mad Dog Russo think about all this?
Oh, we have it? Yes!
Here's Mad Dog Russo on why he believes Tennessee should be a 1 seed in the NCAA tournament.
Give it to me.
Purdue and UConn as virtual locks as 1 seeds for the men's NCAA tournament. Who do you think has the best case for the 4th 1 seed?
I don't care if they lose in the first round. If they don't give Tennessee that 4th 1 seed, there needs to be an investigation.
Investigation?
Come on, with Alabama and Florida and South Carolina and Auburn and Kentucky, they won that regular season. Dalton Connect, I told you about him. You're going to love him. He's the SEC Player of the Year. They got to be the 1 seed. I'm going to do something that I shouldn't do right now, but I'm going to do it here. And he never wins in the tournament. I'm going to pick Tennessee to win it all. They play good defense.
Tennessee, you're picking the Tennessee Volunteers to win the national championship?
Yes, I am.
Now your son's not on the UConn coaching staff, and now you're off the bandwagon.
I'm off the Connecticut bandwagon. Tennessee. I'll make a little win. How about you and I have a little wager on
Tennessee?
In fairness, and in all honesty, I watch a handful of games during the regular season until the tournament. I've watched UConn. I've watched Kansas a couple of times. I've watched North Carolina.
We got Mad Dog.
I think
Get him out of here.
got a chance to win the
Get him out of here.
Mad Dog, I don't Tennessee as the one seed?
Shut up. Stay low.
You can't use his own powers against him. I won't allow it.
So how about that?
That's how you know he took a gummy before first take today.
Yeah. I will say this. My pick to win the SEC tournament is Kentucky. They're playing at a really high level right now. Their offense, they're having as good of a late season surge as we've seen in quite some time with Calipari and this rinse and repeat that we do with a young, supremely talented roster of struggling early, taking their lumps, and then kind of figuring it out. Nobody wants to play Kentucky right now. Nobody. Especially if they're hitting the the way they were in Knoxville on Saturday.
That was it was brutal to watch the Tennessee just get shelled and have no response other than Dalton Connect. Those are the SEC observations. Basketball tonight. We're excited about it. We will be at Bridgestone tomorrow and Friday. Of course, we will only be on for an hour and a half on Friday because then Ball Network coverage is what will begin, and the Tennessee game at noon.
You can hear tonight's games on the Zone as well, the Learfield call of the SEC tournament after 3HL gets off the air at 6.
Excellent. 615-737-1045. We'll get back to your phone calls on. Well, let's get a phone call on free agency first because we got the dumbest thing in sports this week. Lucas, before I take this phone call, tell people what they can win for the dumbest thing in sports this week.
Coming up, not now, but at the start of. Well, once we get into this break, we can start taking some calls because the dumbest thing in sports this week will get a 4-pack of tickets to Nashville Soccer Club at home against Charlotte, a beautiful Saturday night at Geodis Park. As soon as we hit this break, 615-737-1045, dial that line and have a dumbest thing in sports ready.
Christian is in New York with a free agency question.
Hey, guys. How you doing today?
Good.
So my question is for Lucas and Buck. Real quick, first of all, happy 3-year anniversary. I'm excited for you guys. Congratulations.
Thank you.
And also my question is, personally, what have you guys liked so far in free agency, and what would you like for the Titans organization to do moving forward?
Okay. Well, we can talk about that coming up next. We'll also get into the dumbest thing in sports this week. We'll flesh out a list for you, Christian. We appreciate the call. I'm Buck Rising. It's 104.5 The Zone.
It is 11:01. Good morning. I'm Lucas Panzica from the 104.5 The Zone studios. Today marks the start of the NFL new league year at 3 p.m. Central Time. That also means the start of free agency. The deals that have been agreed to in the legal tampering period can become official. The Titans made another move on Tuesday per Diana Rossini, agreeing to terms with Washington guard Sadiq Charles on a one-year deal with a max value of $2.5 million. Charles, a former LSU offensive lineman, was teammates with new Titans center Lloyd Cushenberry on that 2019 national championship team. Rossini also reports the Titans are expected to have interest in San Francisco defensive tackle Eric Armstead, and Adam Schefter reporting that former Dolphins linebacker Jerome Baker will visit the Titans on Thursday. The Texans continue to make moves, bringing in former Vikings edge rusher Danielle Hunter, who had 16.5 sacks last year. He signs a 2-year deal worth up to $49 million. Elsewhere, the Pittsburgh Steelers are reportedly trading wide receiver Deontay Johnson to Carolina in exchange for corner Dante Jackson and a pick swap. For all your foundation repair and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
We're going to get to the dumbest thing in sports this week here in just a second. We've got a family 4-pack of tickets to Nashville SC's upcoming game against Charlotte for you to win if you give us, only if you give us, the dumbest thing in sports this week. 615-737-1045 is how you join the discussion to get an opportunity to win some tickets. We'll get to those here in just a second. Lucas and I will have ours. We did have a caller call in and ask, Christian in New York, ask before we get into this what we like about what the Titans have done in free agency thus far and what we would like them to continue to do. The only thing that I can really hang my hat on, just objectively, is I love the signing of Lloyd Cushenberry, the center. They had to pay the We Suck luxury tax to get him here. $26 million guaranteed is the most ever paid to a center in NFL history. $12.5 million a year is he's well worth the value for certain, given the need that you have up front. But the thing that I like the most about what they've done is the center. Now, we're still waiting on a bunch of different moves to be made. Lucas, do you have a particularly favorite move?
Yeah, Lloyd Cushenberry, just to get an anchor for Will Levis for the short-term and hopefully long-term future, 26 years old. So anytime you can get a veteran that has been starting since day one of his rookie year. Remember, his debut was 2020 against the Titans in that dreadful Week 1 Monday Night Football game.
I was so happy to do that one stadium. From the couch.
Yeah, that's one you don't mind staying at home.
To Denver for the second Monday Night Football Week 1 doubleheader. I think it kicked off at like 9:30. Bleep that. I was so happy to be home for that.
But I'm interested in what happens at wide receiver. Very interested in what happens at wide receiver and
how has really happened at wide receiver this free agency,
and how this L'Jarius Sneed situation kind of pans out in relation to that. Because I think addressing those two, a potential trade for Sneed and addressing the wide receiver position, could be very much linked as it pertains to what the Titans could or couldn't do in the draft.
All right, too much analysis. Hit it. He wasn't ready.
Let's be honest. You've already seen something this week that made you say,
"What the is this?"
That's bullshit. What the hell? Give me some more now.
Something so mind-numbingly idiotic that you just want to get it off your chest.
Dumber than a second coat of paint.
Some idiot. You are really dumb. For real.
It's the dumbest thing in sports this week on the Buck Rising Show.
For the opportunity to win some tickets, 615-737-1045, 4-pack of tickets to Nashville SC's upcoming game against Charlotte. What is the dumbest thing in sports this week? Lucas, I lied to you. I'm just now sending the audio from Instagram for us to play, so you tell me when you've got it ready. But very rarely do we talk about this. We've talked a lot of women's college basketball here lately because there's been things like a brawl in the middle of the South Carolina LSU result. And then this came across my timeline yesterday. The audio is not going to cooperate, but that's all well and good. It's pretty short, so I'll summarize. Utah State lost their regular season finale. And their coach, Kayla Ard, comes to the press conference podium and is asked a question how she plans to rebuild next season. She then says, I'm not going to rebuild. I just talked to, she uses the name. Actually, Lucas, I'm just going to hold it up to the microphone.
And they're going in a different direction, and I respect her decision, and I hope they get a really good coach in. I'm assuming that's going to be the last question. All right.
Okay.
Thank you.
All. Thank you, Coach.
Oh.
Firing a coach, then letting her, immediately after a game, firing a coach, letting her get up to the press conference podium to field questions on behalf of your organization, only for her to say, in response to how do you plan to rebuild next year? Well, I'm not going to. This is going to be my last game. I just talked to Grace, it sounds like is the athletic director's name, and was informed that I will not be returning. And then she waits. I assume there's going to be no other questions. Get up. Handled it very, very gracefully. Bleep Utah State for that. Bleep whomever that athletic director is.
Yeah.
That is rotten. Rotten. It's my dumbest thing in sports this week.
That's poor form to do that. I mean, the media availability is going to be obligated after the game.
Yeah. Did that sound okay through the phone?
It actually did. It sounded fine.
We should do that more often.
We should do everything like that. Do it after the press conference.
Oh.
I mean, that is awful. That is terrible.
You imagine if they fired Vrabel and then let him get up in front of us before the. How do you think Mike could have handled it?
My dumbest thing in sports this week, Tiki Barber. Now, I believe this was a little tongue-in-cheek, this quote from Tiki Barber, saying after the Saquon Barkley deal to the Philadelphia Eagles as a free agent, quote, "You're dead to us, Saquon. Good luck. You're dead to me." Giants legend, former Giants running back Tiki Barber on Saquon Barkley joining the NFC East rival Philadelphia Eagles.
You have the audio, right?
I haven't seen the audio.
It's in the group.
No, that's Tiki talking about something different. You sent in Tiki talking about rivalries and how rivalries players don't care about rivalries anymore, and how there's a disconnect with the fans.
Oh, I thought it was on the back end of that clip. My mistake.
But Saquon's response on Twitter was, "You've been a hater since I got to New York. And all the dead to me talk, don't smile in my face when you see me." Again, I think Tiki was kind of being like, tongue in cheek.
He'd be a sports talk radio guy.
Yeah, exactly. And playing to Giants fans where he's obviously a legend. But still, Saquon Barkley got more money in Philly than he was ever going to get with the New York Giants. They reportedly didn't even make much of an effort to keep him. So, come on, Tiki Barber. Saquon Barkley isn't doing anybody wrong by going and getting his with the Philadelphia Eagles. That's on the New York Giants for not keeping their star player.
DC Cashville in the F&M Bank chat on YouTube says, imagine Blaine Bishop saying this about Derrick Henry to the Ravens. Imagine. Eddie George saying, "You dead to me, Derrick."
Yeah.
It is.
Come on.
It is such garbage. Also, who cares if you're dead to the Giants organization? The Giants organization is godforsaken. Tiki Barber, by the way, they didn't start winning Super Bowls with Eli Manning until after Tiki Barber was out of the building. And I maintain, I don't know him personally, but it's always been funny to me. Tiki Barber was supposed to be Michael Strahan, and Michael Strahan ended up having the big media Good Morning America game show talk host career. And Tiki Barber, local New York talk radio, not the worst job.
No, he does a lot of stuff with Superbook Sports.
Sure.
I worked with him in Rondé on a thing at Margaritaville.
Did you ask him if he's bitter that Strahan got the career that he was supposed to have? Did you ask him?
No, we did not discuss that.
That probably should have come up. Good journalism by you. 615-737-1045. What's the dumbest thing in sports this week? Let's start with Marcus in Nashville.
Good morning, fellas.
How are you?
I am doing fantastic. How you doing?
Good.
All right. So my dumbest thing in sports this week has to be Jerry Jones and the Dallas Cowboys with all those all-in claims and then doing absolutely nothing, no restructuring Dak, no extending CD, nothing to set themselves up for anything so far.
It's thank you for the call, Marcus. I appreciate it. By the way, stay on hold, guys. That's how Lucas will be able to contact you if you do end up winning the tickets. Cowboys haven't made a move. Titans fans get a little angsty because the Texans are loading up, and Titans have made a couple of moves, but nothing crazy. Dallas hadn't done bleep.
They've just lost Tony Pollard.
Lost Tyron Smith.
Yep.
They're shedding parts around Dak Prescott. Now they have to pay Dak Prescott again, which is probably a reason why they're shedding parts. But Did you see the Skip Bayless tweet?
No.
All in, comma, my ass.
Noted Cowboy fan,
Well,
Skip Bayless.
Comma needed to be very, very tenuously placed comma there.
Yeah, doing a lot of work.
Oh, yeah. Jason is in Murfreesboro next.
Hey, guys.
Hey.
All right. My dumbest thing in sports, I feel like there was a lot this week, but I feel like the dumbest one for me was the Flyers coach, John Tortorella, getting ejected from the game against the Lightning. He refuses to leave the bench and just...
I didn't do that. You did that.
But, not a chance, get off of me, I'm not going nowhere. Then he gets, suspended for 2 games and then also fined. That's the dumbest thing that I've seen on sports this week.
Thank you for the call, Jace. John Tortorella's still coaching? That guy is the zombie apocalypse. You can't kill him. Torts. What's he? I don't think we ever used this clip on this radio show, but one of the first shows that I ever got, we had this great drop of Stephen A. Smith screaming that this is the United States of America. It's not the United States of John Tortorella. It's just one of the funniest things. I don't do it justice, but either way, we'll keep that in mind. Mo in Nashville next.
Oh, yeah. So my dumbest thing in sports is the Derrick Henry trade to Baltimore.
It wasn't traded.
For a few. Oh, not traded, but him signing with Baltimore.
Mm-hmm.
All of the talking heads were saying Derrick Henry was going to go to Dallas because he bought a house in Dallas, all of this, all of that, and he ends up going to Baltimore. Like, it was very silly to me. And sports.
Appreciate the call, Mo. I didn't hear a single person talking about him, like legitimately talking about him. The only people I saw talking about Derek to the Cowboys because of his realtor was Titans Twitter.
Yeah, just social media.
Yeah, so not talking heads there. Everybody who was informed and speaking about Derrick Henry knew that the Ravens were the layup the whole time. Kyle in Smyrna.
Hey, shut that lawnmower up. Come on, I'm on the radio. All right. Well, I just want to say I've never been to a soccer game. At first when I heard the crowd, I was like, nah. I realized my dad raised me to hate soccer, and just a redneck, football or baseball, nothing else. So I like to give it a shot. So I got to earn it. My dumbest thing in sports is local radio folks saying that the cap is fake, and then the Bills release 6 players, and then they're all pro, and they're no good, they're cheap, they're hurt, blah, blah, blah. They double down and keep saying it. Give me a break, man. Give it up. That's it.
Thanks for the call, Kyle. I can't imagine who he's talking about. I texted him the other day when the Bills continue to shed players. I'm like, cap's fake, huh? What are we doing here, bud? He's too busy screaming about the Texans.
Let's send Kyle to Jodas Park.
Oh, no. Just because he pandered to you and said he's never been to a soccer game and his dad raised him to hate it?
Yep.
Okay, that's fine with me. Congratulations, Kyle. You and 3 other friends are going to Jodas Park.
Join us on the radio call if you can't make it. 7 p.m. pregame on Saturday.
Also, the shut that lawnmower up.
Yeah, that's good stuff. Kyle knows how to play the game.
Well, it's just to make us laugh. If you can entertain us, we're going to give you the tickets. It's really not even about the best submission. We kind of cheat the rules that way. Anyway, congratulations to Kyle. Kirk and Saquon, the biggest deals making the rounds around the NFL. How the Titans have factored in the latest on the L'Jarius Sneed potential trade. We'll talk about that coming up next. The most interesting deals of free agency. Derrick Henry was up there for me. Landing with the Baltimore Ravens yesterday. Titans not really doing anything of great intrigue, just adding necessary pieces and parts. A center, an outside corner. I can't believe they signed Rashaan Evans 2.0. I'm going to be biased against this guy. Like just watching him. Because I'm thinking the way that Mike Herndon described him, Kenneth Murray, in the first hour, I could see Rashaan Evans highlights playing in my head of him making one of those phenomenal goal line stops and then, over pursuing a running back, leaving a hole in the defense for somebody to sprint through for 35 yards or 45 yards or whatever the case may be. Like the idea that they've added another player like that, maybe they can coach him up better than Vrabel and that coaching staff could Rashaan, but that's a pretty big indictment of that player. Former first-round pick Kenneth Murray from the Chargers. So then Sadiq Charles, the offensive lineman that they add yesterday, 1-year deal, probably depth, still looking for guard and tackle help. Tackle market is a tough scene. I think that when you look at a variety of different transactions that have been made, what's the most intriguing contract? Like Greg and I are going to talk about it from this context, so I kind of wanted to workshop it a little bit before we tape the install at 3. What's the most interesting contract of a player changing teams? I don't know that it's Kirk to the Falcons for me. That's obviously the biggest deal.
$100 million for guaranteed, $100 million guaranteed for a 35-year-old quarterback coming off an Achilles. That's pretty interesting to me.
Yeah, but is it interesting because of the football, from the football perspective, or just because he's getting paid a lot of money?
Both. It's interesting because to the Falcons, this is them going in. This is them saying, we believe we are a contender. You don't give $100 million guaranteed to a 35-year-old quarterback if you don't think he can help you win a Super Bowl. And for a guy with one career playoff win, that's very interesting to me.
It is crazy that Kirk Cousins has played this much football and only has one career playoff win.
Like, are you giving him that money because the expectation is to get into the playoffs and maybe win a game? No.
In that division. I don't know.
Okay. I mean, I don't think so. I think you are paying that type of money for a quarterback if you believe he can win you a championship.
He's not going to be able to play until like October.
I don't know. Maybe maybe Aaron Rodgers will send him some MP3s of dolphin sounds in the midst of his vice presidential campaign.
Okay. That should have been my dumbest thing in sports this week. What is the fact that Aaron Rodgers hasn't come out and publicly shot that down yet, that Robert Kennedy Jr. is trying to put him on his vice president as the vice presidential nominee for his ticket for the upcoming election cycle.
Mm-hmm.
Kennedy Rodgers 2024. As if this election wasn't about to be dumb enough.
Wasn't Rodgers the one going on the whole thing about keeping the BS out of the building? Anything that doesn't have to do with winning needs to be out of the building. Wasn't that you?
I hope that he's good at football again because I miss Aaron Rodgers being good. I can tolerate. I will enjoy the rest of the nonsense if he's good at football again. But for Aaron Rodgers to just be lobbing grenades off the couch has become tiresome. But see, for me, Lucas, I think from an intrigue standpoint, just kind of going off one of the deals that I thought was the most interesting, I think Derrick Henry's deal with the Ravens is way more interesting than Kirk Cousins' the Falcons. Because I think that gives Baltimore a legit weapon to add to their arsenal to compete with Patrick Mahomes. I think that team is a championship contender. There is no disputing that. And with Lamar in the spot that he's in, coming off another MVP campaign, but plenty of questions around him as a postseason performer, right? He and Josh Allen are kind of stuck in this spot. Neither have done even what Joe Burrow has done, which is reach a Super Bowl, even though Joe Burrow didn't win the Super Bowl. Burrow got there and won an AFC championship game and got past Patrick Mahomes to do it. Baltimore and Derrick Henry are vastly more interesting to me than that. I would argue that it's more interesting than Saquon Barkley's deal with the Eagles. Because that, I think, has the most. I'm looking at this from which transaction gives a contender a better chance at the ship. Derrick Henry, to me, supersedes Russell Wilson to Pittsburgh or Kirk Cousins to Atlanta. I can't take the whole Houston Texans offseason and make it more interesting than one transaction because that kind of undoes the game. And it's not just one transaction that puts them over the top. It's the fact that they've signed 15 damn players. But beyond that, there's not a team that's given out a contract of a player that's changing teams. Chris Jones keeps the Chiefs as championship contenders for $32 million a year. But Saquon and the Eagles, I don't think it makes that big of a difference. The Commander Skins football team's offseason has been kind of, directionless a little bit. I'm interested in Chicago, but there's not one move there either.
I don't know. I think Saquon in Philly makes a big difference.
From Swift to Saquon?
Yeah. With Swift coming off a career year behind that offensive line, and I know they got to replace Jason Kelce. But
their offensive lines, I know they re-signed Landon Dickerson, but like Lane Johnson's at the very end of his career, they were not the same unit from 2 years ago.
Still, it's a massive upgrade from what Saquon has been dealing with. I am very intrigued at Saquon Barkley in the backfield with Jalen Hurts.
What gives an NFC South team a better chance to win a playoff game? Let's just take it within the context of winning a playoff game. Baker Mayfield or Kirk Cousins? Now, Baker didn't change teams, so I'm changing the rules of the game. But Baker's got as many playoff wins as Kirk Cousins does.
Oof. Falcons have playmakers.
Yeah, but they can't figure out how to use them. That's the whole thing.
Well, Arthur Smith couldn't, strangely enough.
It's just a bizarre thing.
And he didn't have a quarterback to do it.
Sure.
That's a great question.
Oh, because Tampa hasn't added anybody. They're just re-signing players. Yep. Baker, Mike Evans.
No, they're running it back.
They brought back Levante David, Greg Gaines, Antoine Winfield. I don't know that it's between Derrick Henry and the two quarterbacks for me, and maybe I'm biased because of Derrick Henry and the local intrigue here, but I think that's the biggest championship contender shift or addition that any of these teams has made. Because I was dismissive of Tampa Bay last year. I will not do that again this year because Baker and Mike Evans have earned that much. I think I'm still well within my rights to be dismissive of the Falcons because I don't think Kirk Cousins is going to be able to get on. He's sure as hell not going to be ready for training camp. It's a new quarterback, new system, new coaching staff, new players.
Because of that, I think Tampa should be the favorite in the NFC South. How much do the Ravens change certain aspects of their offense to fit Henry is what I'm curious about. Like, how often are we seeing the Ravens going I formation, under center, bully ball in the run game?
Well, it depends on how. I saw Chase Daniel, the former NFL quarterback. Is it Chase Daniels or Daniel? I think it's Chase Daniel, former Chargers, Bears.
Daniel, no S.
Okay, no S. Chase Daniel. I saw him say, and people tend to say things that get ahead of themselves in front of microphones, but Chase Daniel said the other day on the NFL Network that he expects Derrick Henry to get the most carries of his career in Baltimore.
In a season?
In a season.
Well, that's a high bar.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know about that.
That's what I'm saying.
I think it was Mina Kimes who tweeted that Derrick Henry, Keaton Mitchell, the former ECU running back, was a rookie last year, is the most thunder and lightning combo in NFL history.
The Ravens, by the way, according to Mike Garafolo, are trading offensive tackle Morgan Moses to the Jets. Moses heads back to Florham Park with the team he started for back in 2021. So Jets apparently not satisfied with the free agent tackle market. Their offensive line is a mess too. So they're instead choosing to give up draft capital. I have not seen compensation as a part of that trade just yet. Did the Ravens lead the league in rushing last year? Like team rushing. I need to look this up because somebody just said that in the chat.
I'd be very surprised. It would have had to be San Francisco. Christian McCaffrey was the lead rusher in the NFL last year.
Sure, but that does not mean that they were the team.
Sure, but just that backfield with Deebo Samuel's impact and Kyle Juszczyk, if I have to put money on it right now, I'm saying the 49ers led the league in rushing.
You would be incorrect. In fact, they were 7th.
Wow. Who led the league? Oh, the Dolphins, right?
No.
No?
Guess
Who?
again. You'll never guess. I'll give you one more shot.
Give me a conference.
NFC.
An NFC team that led the league in rushing. Division.
Oh, my God, this is 2022. Never mind.
He strikes again. How do you do that?
Oh, wait. I'm still right. They're third, the Niners. They're third.
Okay, that does make more sense.
But the team that I had that led the league in rushing in 2022 finished second last year was the Bears.
Oh.
Yeah. 2,399 yards.
So who led the league in rushing?
The Ravens.
It was the Ravens.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah. 541 attempts, 2,661 yards, 26 total touchdowns.
And Lamar had to be their lead rusher, right? Or what?
I'm looking at team stats. I've already screwed this up once. I don't want to do it again.
They went through some injuries at running back.
Don't ask me for specifics.
Do.
You're going to screw. We're getting too close. Okay? Point being, Ravens led the league in rushing last year. Should the expectation not be for them to do it again with Derrick Henry? I mean, the thing that we don't know is Derrick going to stay healthy? But there's no reason to believe that Derrick wouldn't stay healthy because that's been the entire story of his career, save 2021.
Chad said, my flowers, boys. I'll take them now. You get your flowers, Chad.
Doubt me again, Elliot. Well, okay, forgive me for not having great confidence in the YouTube chat, okay?
So Lamar did lead them in rushing with 821 rush yards. Gus Edwards went over 800 last year.
Mm-hmm.
Keaton Mitchell got near 400, and Justice Hill had 387. He averaged 4.6 yards per carry.
Well, that's the thing. It's still committee, except the quarterback is a part of the committee.
I mean, Melvin Gordon is in there. Gus Edwards had 13 rushing touchdowns last season. It makes it even more glaring that they just abandoned the run game in the Chiefs' AFC Championship.
They should be expected to lead the league in rushing again because of Lamar, because of Derrick. And they do have some guys to spell Derrick, but I fully expect Derrick Henry to get no less than 15 attempts per game, right, in Baltimore. He's going to have so many wide open opportunities just because of the threat of Lamar. And it's not like they're still running the Greg Roman offense where they're predicating the vast majority of it on Lamar's legs. You remember you may not have been paying this close attention just yet, but my first season covering the Titans full-time was Mike Mularkey, offensive coordinator Terry Robisky.
What are you saying? Why would I not have been paying attention?
Well, just to things like a Thursday quote from Terry Robisky.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
sure.
That was made available to us in media. Terry Robisky said that they predicated 80% of their offense on Marcus Mariota's ability to run. And
I remember.
We all looked around at him like, what? The guy coming off the broken fibula? What are we talking about here? What do you mean?
It's a high percentage.
It's a little high. And he didn't seem to bat an eye at it. And then very soon after, Terry Robisky was not the offensive coordinator of the Tennessee Titans anymore, nor was Mike Mularkey the head coach. But still.
It was like Tim Kelly. What was the Tim Kelly quote this past season?
Does Derrick Henry have enough room to run?
Oh,
plenty of room.
Saying yes. Yeah.
What? Tim, you don't have to give us the game plan. You just can't outright lie. Anyway. Derrick Henry is going to have as many opportunities to capitalize on what it is that he does well. Now, he's not the player that he was 2 years ago. And he's still a good player, still good to great player. I don't want to sound like I'm diminishing Derrick Henry, but he is slightly diminished at 30 years old. It's completely understandable that he would be. He gets caught from behind far more often than he used to. He doesn't have necessarily the same level of explosiveness as soon as he gets the ball that he did. But that's okay. He can still put together an 1,100-yard season behind the league's worst offensive line like he did in 2023. I think that makes Derrick the most consequential signing thus far of the offseason because of where he's going, how specific that niche is for him to be able to work in, and the quarterback that he is going to play alongside.
And his durability.
The durability is huge because what's the thing about the Ravens running backs? They keep cycling through them.
Now, with that said, Edwards was healthy all throughout last year. Justice Hill played in 16 games, but Keaton Mitchell did get hurt. J.K. Dobbins got hurt immediately.
It breaks my heart. They have been consistently, and they've been able to put it together with the corpse of Le'Veon Bell and Gus Edwards and all these different running backs found. Melvin Gordon off the scrap heap. I think that, To me, that makes Derrick Henry the most consequential signing of the offseason so far.
And Gus Edwards is a Charger.
Yes. Oh, you think Jim Harbaugh's not going to run the football? That's Derrick Henry light, Gus Edwards. 615-737-1045 is how you join the discussion. The most under-the-radar Titans news of the week. We'll tell you what that is coming up next. So I've got NFL Network on in the studio. They are discussing the best fit for various free agents. They've got Ryan Tannehill up on the screen right now, and they're saying the best fit for Ryan Tannehill is, Lucas?
The Colts.
The Indianapolis Colts. What would that look like? I mean, he'd be the backup.
Yeah. Probably would get some playing time, given Anthony Richardson's short history in the NFL.
Shane Steichen with Ryan Tannehill would be interesting. Especially running that RPO stuff. Now, I know Tannehill's a little older, but he moves better than Minshew. And that's what that offense was very much predicated on. He's still the best backup option, but the problem is he doesn't want to be a backup. So I don't know that I think Indy makes a lot of sense for Tannehill. I think that makes a lot of sense for Tannehill, as a matter of fact. But backup quarterback is not something that he's interested in.
Well, he's not. Is there a situation out there right now that could sign Ryan Tannehill to be their starting quarterback? Can you think of one? Is there any out there?
Washington's got the second overall pick.
Yeah, that's not it.
New England has the third overall pick.
Who still needs a starting quarterback? Vegas, Denver.
They're expected to cut Jimmy G. Denver is the most glaring one.
And you gonna bring in Ryan Tannehill to be your starter?
Oh, God, if Sean Payton hated Russell Wilson.
All that work to get Russ out and paid all that money, and that's going to be your solution?
Oh, no.
So Tannehill's best chance.
But they're already in hell, Lucas. Broncos fans have been in hell since Peyton Manning retired.
But Tannehill's best chance, yes, he wants to start next year. His best chance is probably to go somewhere where, yeah, he's the backup, but he's probably going to have to be called upon a few times. And I feel like Indy it fits that category with the way Anthony Richardson plays football.
Well, yeah. I mean, if he's going to be a backup, though, he might as well come back here.
We'll talk about it.
Okay. We'll have time. There is pretty significant news that went under the radar, or at least significant to Titans fans, because this has been one of your biggest, shall I call it a bugaboo? That feels like a pretty accurate assessment. Titans have hired a new head of strength and conditioning to oversee their operation. Zach Woodfin is there, and the title is Director of Sports Performance. Kaharski reported on this first. He is replacing Frank Perano, who went to work for the New York Giants. He is previously the Director of Player Performance and Wellness for the UFL, which is the new XFL, USFL combo that is being trotted out this spring. The last stop that he was in was the Director of Athletic Performance at Missouri. And we know how highly Missouri's coaching staff, now I know Director of Sports Performance doesn't necessarily fall into the guise of coaching staff, but he is well regarded. Was the 2014 Football Scoop. I'm unfamiliar with Football Scoop, but it's Football Scoop's 2014 National Strength and Conditioning Coach of the Year while at Missouri.
College football outlet. John Bryce works for Football Scoop. He's on Blaine and Mickey all the time. Yeah, big college football outlet.
So, you've got a new head of strength and conditioning or director of sports performance.
His only NFL experience was as an assistant, a strength and conditioning assistant in Green Bay from 2011 through 2013. And since then, he went to UAB. He's an Alabama guy from Montgomery. Went to Prattville High School down there, but worked at UAB, Southern Miss, Kansas, and Mizzou. So a lot of college football strength and conditioning experience.
He's a former NFL linebacker. He spent time with the Packers, Saints, Ravens, and Texans. Did play in one NFL game for the Ravens in 2005. So journeyman, special teams player primarily. But that went pretty much under the radar. Now I'd heard at some point last week that they had hired a guy, and that was something that Rand and Callahan had said they planned to prioritize as soon as they got back from the combine after the whole stadium groundbreaking situation. So they go out. It took them a little longer than I think they expected to. And I don't know how many people they interviewed for the job, but I don't know necessarily that they got – I don't know that they would tell us if they didn't get their first choice, right? It's like GMs when they draft a guy. Well, this is the dude that we had targeted the entire time on our board.
No, it's ADs when they hire head football coaches in college. Always was the number one choice. Only one we offered.
So –
now, I remember Callahan saying we'd like to have someone in place by mid-March.
And this is obviously before mid-March, so they have somebody in place. Puka not receiving the news well in the F&M Bank chat. They didn't learn a thing. UFL in Missouri, what a freaking joke. Okay. I mean, you could be right, you could be wrong. I have no idea. It's the problem with the evaluation of director of sports performance. The only people that see what happens are in the building and are the people working for the strength and conditioning staff and the players themselves. And the players themselves last year graded out the Titans' strength and conditioning staff pretty well. In fact, it was a B+. So I don't know, for all the gripes that Titans fans have about it, the players don't seem to have the same issues. We'll see how it goes. I don't know that they can have a third straight season with as many injuries as they've had, if for no other reason but sheer luck. It can't happen that way again. Surely, possibly, can it? But I guess time will tell. So that's your new director of sports performance, Zach Woodfin. Now, the most fair complaint would be get somebody with an NFL pedigree. Somebody from what are the teams? I mean, do you regard teams particularly with the best strength and conditioning staffs? Like, do you judge teams on that? Philadelphia is the only one that really comes to mind because they've been ahead of sports science since Chip Kelly got there, and people were laughing at Chip because they had specifically designed protein shakes for players, and now that's what every team in the league does. They were very, very much on the front end of sports performance and sports science. So Philadelphia is the team that comes to mind when you talk about the level of investment there and basically talking to players who have been in multiple spots but have gone to Philadelphia and understand how much different things are done there. The only time that you really hear about things going south with a sport performance or strength and conditioning or training staff is when Tyrod Taylor gets his lung punctured by a Chargers doctor,
I think it gets paid more attention to in the college ranks when you're talking about having to develop 18-year-olds. Like that period of 18 to 22 is arguably the most transformational period you can go through physically, right, as a football player. So they're critical in the college game. So I wonder what the biggest differences are in being a strength coach at the Power 5 level in college football, which he has been recently with Kansas and Missouri, and in the NFL when you're dealing with guys ranging from 22 to 34.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I imagine it is a completely different job. Yeah. Completely different in terms of recovery, in terms of different plans for different players, positions, stages in their career, players that have gone through injuries, that haven't. I'd be fascinated to learn more about that, just all the differences that come with that. Because that's one of the first things you look at when a college football coach is hired. Who's he going to bring? Scott Cochran was arguably the most influential coach Nick Saban brought to Alabama.
And he was getting paid like in the millions, right?
And now is at Georgia.
Yeah.
And has been just as influential there.
You're right. I would be fascinated to learn more about that. It'll never happen. They'll never tell us how they work John Glennon calls it the crafting of lies, how they put together the injury reports. One of my favorite things that Johnny says, the crafting of lies. Sports science is the crafting of lies.
Well, you don't think we could find a former strength coach that worked in college and the pros to come on and talk about it?
Oh, I mean, I'm blanking on, he was here forever. Watterson. I mean, I know he's still local. Hell, didn't he call the radio show when Ben Jones was on here the day or right around after Ben retired? I'm pretty sure Steve Watterson did. Either way. So, I mean, we could, but I think that I'd be curious to know. It's kind of like nurses. Do you ever have like a family member? Like my grandmother was a nurse, okay? But to do the job of a nurse when my grandmother was a nurse is a vastly different job than the jobs that nurses are doing now. You know what I'm saying?
Well, you're saying medicine has evolved?
Medicine has slightly evolved a little bit. So salt tablets are no longer a part of the prescription. You know?
Well, was she just giving people like a shot of bourbon or something?
Yeah, this is Jack Daniels. That's what you put on a baby bottle to get them to shut up and stop crying when they're teething. Put a little whiskey on the baby bottle, yeah? So I think that, not to say that Watterson couldn't provide us great insights that we don't know because, of course, we're idiots about this stuff. We don't know anything. I just think that the job in the NFL today is significantly different than it was even when Steve Watterson was working in the NFL. Just as an example, I'm not using Watterson as anything but like the example that Titans fans will recognize the name.
I had missed this. Scott Cochran is no longer with Georgia.
Oh, really?
But he became their special teams coordinator. So he went from strength coach to special teams coordinator.
Does that happen very often?
Yeah, I don't know if you see it that often, but he resigned to pursue other opportunities in mid-February.
Wants to be a coach. Okay.
I don't know if he wasn't getting it done on special teams for Kirby, but he initially came as the strength coach.
Eric Alonso says, no, Buck, don't give the baby whiskey. I'm not saying me, although this is why I can't be around children. Among many other reasons. Backup quarterback options. What's available for the Titans? God knows they need one. We'll talk about it next.
It is 12:01. Good afternoon. I'm Lucas Panzica from the 104.5 The Zone studios. We are now 3 hours away from the official start of the NFL's new league year. Also means the start of free agency. The deals that you've seen that have been agreed to in the legal tampering period can become official at 3 p.m. Central. The latest with the Titans, per Diana Rossini, agreeing to terms with Washington guard Sadiq Charles on a one-year deal with max value of $2.5 million. Rossini also reports the Titans are expected to have interest in San Francisco defensive tackle Eric Armstead. Adam Schefter reports that former Dolphins linebacker Jerome Baker will visit the Titans tomorrow. In NFL news today, the Ravens are trading starting right tackle Morgan Moses and pick number 134 to the Jets in exchange for pick 112 and 218. Also, the Texans are trading defensive tackle Malik Collins to the San Francisco 49ers. Nashville Soccer Club is at Inter Miami tonight. It's the second leg in the CONCACAF Champions Cup round of 16. The aggregate score is tied at 2-2. Kickoff at 7:15 on FS2. The Nashville Predators look to continue an 11-game point streak at the Jets tonight. Puck drop at 6:30. And the SEC tournament gets underway at Bridgestone Arena tonight with Vanderbilt taking on Arkansas at 6, followed by Missouri versus Georgia at 8:30. You can hear the Learfield call of those games here on The Zone. 3HL will be live at Bridgestone Arena this afternoon from 3 to 6. For all your foundation repair and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Final hour is upon us. Let's talk some backup quarterbacks. Titans continuing to work throughout the course of the day and the week, trying to get things done for the free agent class. We've got some updated details on what it costs to trade for a tackle. According to Mike Garafolo, the Jets are trading for the Ravens right tackle, Morgan Moses. This is what the Jets are getting. Morgan Moses and a fourth-round pick. The Ravens get a fourth-round pick and a sixth-round pick. Jets getting a decent quality starter there, which is something that they don't have many of along the offensive line, and that kind of gives you an indication of what it would cost to trade.